So, as I briefly mentioned in my last vlog, the Justice Sir Robert Chambers Memorial Moot has been on for first year law students recently, and my friend Bronnie and I decided to join because why not? Let's give it a go. We have to do mooting as an assessed activity as our first year of Part 2 law anyway, so we may as well get the experience before we're being formally assessed on it. So we went in, we did it, we started off with the preliminary round, and when it got to handing in our written submissions, we were on the appellant side, which it's a long, convoluted, very kind of... It's hard to explain the case to people. It's basically about the tort of privacy, but everybody concerned was a Game of Thrones character. We submitted our first written submission, and then our opposition didn't. And so the University of Auckland Mooting Society got in touch with that team and said, you know, where is this submission? And they had decided to drop out. So for the first round, we had no opposition, which sounds like there was, you know, we got in by default or whatever, which is not what happened. How it works with mooting is, or at least in this case, there were meant to be 4 teams per room, so there would be 2 moots going on in the same room at different times throughout the evening, and so the 4 teams, the 2 teams would be against each other, and then the 4 teams involved in those 2 moots would be judged against each other, and 1 team from that room would advance. And so for us it just ended up being 1 team out of 3 groups, and that happened to a couple of other groups as well in the preliminary stage. We, by some miracle, managed to advance. So we won our preliminary round and we made it through, and we found out later that we were the only appellant team to get through. So everyone else had been the respondents, arguing, yes, this was obviously a breach of privacy. We moved on to the semi-final, and that was a week later, and so we managed to keep our same side. We were the appellants again, and we argued this time, well, you don't argue in a moot, you submit, but we were opposed this time by an actual team, so that was very different to have somebody in the room with us, and the judges, instead of being 4th or 5th year law students, were in their 2nd or 3rd year of practicing. They were either associates at a firm or they were judges' clerks. Basically people who are in the legal profession were judging us for this semi-final. Of the 30 teams that started off in the preliminary, 8 were in the semis, and there were 2 rooms, so 1 team was taken from both rooms, and we were the team that was taken from the room. So we progressed to the final, which was to be held 2 days later in the High Court, to be judged by 3 High Court justices who are on the Queen's Bench, or the permanent representative of New Zealand at the UN. I looked up all of the justices beforehand and I was like, whew, these people are big deals. One of them was actually Lady Deborah Chambers, Queen's Counsel, and she is Sir Robert's wife. So that was an absolute honour to be able to speak and to submit to the woman whose husband the whole moot is a memorial for. And so we got to this final stage, and Bronnie and I, we were just so excited to get to the final. For us it wasn't about winning, it was just about getting the experience, being prepared for the future. So we went in, and it was unlike any experience that we'd had previously. Obviously very rigid formalities being in the High Court with actual justices, and whew, they came for us. Their questions were unbridled in their difficulty, in their criticism, and everything. It was terrifying, I will say, daunting definitely, but just once again an absolute honour to be in that room with them and to be able to present a case. The judges went off and deliberated. They were gone for quite a while, and then they came back and commented on our written submissions, our oral submissions, everything, and then it got to the drum roll moment. tension building. I was so ready for them to say, we've, you know, the side of the respondent has succeeded. I was so prepared. And then they said, we have found for the counsel for the appellant, which is me and Bronnie. We won the Justice Sir Robert Chambers Memorial Moot, having never mooted before. First thing that came into my mind was just shock. It's like when you're at the Oscars and, well, not you personally, maybe you've been to the Oscars, I don't know, I've never been to the Oscars, but at awards shows when they have the nominees all on the screen and then the camera zooms in on the person who's won. I've had a couple of moments in my life where I feel that camera zooming in on me, and this was one of them, and Bronnie and I just kind of turned to each other and we were like, can we hug? We're in the High Court. Like, so we just sort of shuffled over to each other and had a bit of a hug. Winning aside, I think that participation in this moot for a first year law student is invaluable, regardless of whether you get further, how many times you get to moot, whatever side you're on. What you take away from it and what you learn can really help to bridge the gap between Part 1 law and Part 2. You learn a lot about going through cases, a lot about referring to cases. It really helps you reaffirm your knowledge of cases that you've studied previously, because they're often what you get to use as a reference point. And so just the discipline and the time management and the really, really rigorous judgment that you're put under, the scrutiny of presenting a case to any kind of judge at any point in the competition. The techniques that I've taken from this moot will absolutely help me in my future law school career. And so I'm just so grateful to the University of Auckland Mooting Society for giving us this opportunity, and for everybody who helped out over the course of the competition. Phenomenal learning experience, wonderful opportunity for a multitude of reasons. Definitely something that I would 100% recommend to any first year law student. So, all the best.